Save a seat just for you. Save a seat just for you. Yes, you're welcome. Yes, that's all right. Are you ready, Jenny? Yes. No. No, I'm just waiting for you all ready. No. That's fine. Just let me know when you're all ready.
Yes.
How about now, Christy? All right, we're good. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:01 for the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on August 10th, 2023. We do have a quorum. We have place 2 Donald Smith present, place 4 Kyle Kennedy, place 5 Candace Stone, place 6 Brittany Murray, and place 7 myself, Sana Tidwell. We're going to go ahead and start off with an invocation. Everybody will please rise. Lord, thank you for bringing us here tonight. Please be with us as we make decisions and make recommendations for the future of our city. Please watch over everyone as they are here this evening and as they depart to their homes. I'm just going to pray, amen. Donald, do you want to do the pledge?
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We'll move on to community announcements. Items of community interest may include recognizing citizens and staff for outstanding contributions to the community. A reminder about An upcoming event that is organized or sponsored by the governing body, and announcements of an imminent threat to public safety that has arisen after the posting of this agenda. Do we have any community announcements? Dr. Rowland, do you have a community announcement about? Next week?
Meet the teachers going on tonight and the high school and scrimmage Friday night at the high school. Volleyball went 3-0 today in pool play at Ryan tournament, so we're off to the race.
All right, some good announcements.
School starts next Wednesday.
I have a community.
All right.
We're under a water restriction. Everyone needs to conserve their water.
That's. We're also under a burn ban. All right. Is anyone else? Okay. Citizen input. Any person may address the Planning and Zoning Commission. If your comments are concerning an agenda item, you may wait until the discussion on that item if you prefer. Once recognized by the chairperson, please step forward to the speaker's podium, state your name and address, and speak directly into the microphone so that people in the room and those attending remotely can hear comments and see presentations. To request to speak via video conference, click participants at the bottom of the screen and click raise hand. The chairperson will acknowledge your request and allow you to speak. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual unless additional time is otherwise required by law. No discussion or action may be taken at this meeting or on any item not listed on the agenda, other than to make statements of factual information or recite existing policy in response to a citizen's inquiry. You can violate to participate in citizens' input. All right. Moving on to consent items. Items placed on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and non-controversial. The consent agenda can be acted upon in one single motion. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by the request of the commission members or staff. Consideration and action on the following items. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? None of us. Okay, just saying it. She wants me to say that. All right, agenda items. Number 4, hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation to City Council on a zoning change for the Keeneland development from temporary single-family residential 1 acre to district plan development, Penn District, for uses with the single-family residential 7,500 square feet district and delineated development standards for lot area, lot dimensions, yards, height, lot coverage, and landscaping on approximately 81.5 acres situated in the F. Trevino Survey, abstract number 1243, generally located on the north side of Spring Hill Road, north of the terminus on Paradise Drive, Lone Star Lane.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission Chair. I am LaShondra Stringfellow. I am assisting your staff with your city planning items. I am with Messer and Ford, your land use attorney. So we're going to start off with your first. I'll be presenting 3 items to you tonight. The first item. I got the phone. So your first case is for the rezoning of the Keeneland development. So this property is located just on the north side of Spring Hill Road. So there's a lot going on in this area. You're also going to be looking tonight at a rezoning that's to the north, that's High Point Development. You recently looked at a rezoning for a wedding venue, and let's see if I can, there we go. At a wedding venue, that property was approved for rezoning at the last city council meeting. And so one thing that I wanted to show you all, the reason why I shaded is because everything that's in blue is currently has been annexed within the city. Everything outside where you see ETJ, those areas are your ETJ. And so currently, when this property was annexed, it immediately became this temporary holding zoning property. The city actually, to give you some history, the city actually did a development agreement on this property and approved that on December 13th, 2021. And part of the reason for the city entering into that development agreement was because this property was in the ETJ. So there was a desire to be able to have some type of enforcement mechanisms on the property. That would be for regulating lot size, land use, and building design. Because for anything that's within the ETJ, it's outside the city, it is out of the city's purview. So by doing this development agreement, the city was able to negotiate lot sizes, what type of land uses that they could have. And then they also entered in some building design requirements that we're going to get to later. So on January 25th, 2022, little over a year ago, the property then was annexed by the city. And so this is the development that we're looking at. So this development, there have been no changes to this proposed layout since what was in the development agreement that was approved by the city. And so there are 279 lots that are proposed. It's not going to be done in individual phases. There's just one phase. So 52% of the 279 lots will be anywhere between 4,800 and under 6,000 square feet. And these are, for the most part, 40-foot wide lots. Then 48% of those lots will be 6,000 square feet and above. So you may remember I was just telling you about some of those development standards that were in that development agreement. So these are some of them. And again, the city could not impose these without the development agreement and then this proposed PD. So they're proposing a minimum of 75% for each exterior wall would be stone stucco, what they're calling cultured stone, brick, or split face block. And then the sides could be basically party plank, what we call cementitious siding on the sides and the rear. There are also some requirements for the garage design, for roof pitch. Also, there are some architectural elements as well as the requirement for landscaping on the site. Basically, that landscaping is making sure that they have trees as well as some type of shrubbery. The other thing I would like to point out to you is, so the green area here is actually going to be a park trail. And that trail is also on the city's master plan. And so the developer is building that. And as you see, it will, have a future connection to property that is to the east, as well as property here to the west. And this, just to give you a little bit of orientation, this road is Spring Hill Road to the south. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about traffic. So I'm definitely not your traffic engineer. This is information that was provided when they did the development agreement. They were required to do this traffic impact analysis. This is the analysis that was done by an engineering group called Traffic Impact Group. City did review it, had them make some changes, and this is what came with that. So it's anticipated that at full build out, the number of AM peak hour trips will be 51 entering the development, 152 exiting. And then the evenings, your evening peak hour, of course, you typically have more entering. So you got 171 entering, 101 exiting. They are also required. So the little areas that are in yellow along Spring Hill Road, those are going to be the new driveways to get into the development. And so they are going to be required to construct 2 eastbound lanes. So there will be 1 eastbound lane that is farthest to the west. Let's see if I can get here. There we go. So they'll be constructing this left turn bound lane, which is eastbound. And then they will also be constructing another one in this area. And so to give you an idea also, Spring Hill Road is a minor arterial. So how it looks today is not what it will ultimately be. It is required to be a minor arterial, 100-foot right of way. And so for your consideration, these things are actually in your code. It says this is what you consider when you are determining how to act on a zoning case. The first one is technically not in your code, but it is something for you to consider, is that there was a prior development agreement that I mentioned earlier that city council approved. You're going to be looking at impact of any and all uses in the requested district. And one of those things, obviously, that the city has already weighed, its impact. Water and sewer also was a consideration. They're going to be connecting to the city's water and sewer, and they had to provide enough capacity and build in enough capacity in order to support this development. Next is general welfare of all the city affected by the area that is proposed to be changed. Will it be enhanced? And then the property is unusable for the purposes allowed under the existing zoning is your last consideration. And the current zoning, was a temporary zoning. So, obviously temporary zoning is not sufficient. So that's why they're going through this zoning change. And so regardless, unless you table it, regardless of how you act tonight, you're, the recommending body. And so as a recommending body, your recommendation would then go forward to the city council for action. But these are possible considerations for you tonight. It would be either to, recommend approval as has been presented and applied for by the applicant, recommending approval with some changes. But we would want to make sure that those changes hopefully are not in conflict with the development agreement that city council already approved. Other one would just be straight denial. And then the next one obviously would be tabling. However, with the tabling, P and Z basically has 60 days. Total. And if you did do that, then we likely have to do new notices for public hearing for council. So that concludes my part of the presentation.
All right, we're going to move into public hearing. We're going to move into public hearing at 6:15. Anyone here for the public hearing?
I think there's a whole bunch, but.
All right, well,
So let's have a-
there's a list. Are we going to go to the list? I just wanted to, all right. All right, well, I've got Susan and Darlene Hargrove is listed first, if you'd like to.
Need to add that.
It's a public hearing, it's fine. That's, yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Susan Darlene Hargrove. I live at 6489 McNatt Road. I am in the Aubrey's ETJ. And my concern tonight is with agenda item number 4 and number 5. I have lived here for 26 years with my husband, my mother-in-law, the horses and dogs. We raised horses, maintain a productive coastal hayfield. My husband's retired from UT Dallas. I've worked at Aubrey ISD, Pilot Point ISD, in addition to UNT and FEMA. My concern about the High Point Ranch development zoning and consideration for the 460-acre parcel of Spring Hill Road and 377, which is now High Point Ranch. From one agricultural residential district, single family residence, commercial, retail, to redoing the residence lots to 7,500 square feet or less. I'm in favor of keeping the residential lots at 1 acre, and here's why. Additional family homes will increase an already dangerous and road construction, creating a negative impact for Aubrey. And that will also affect the coordination of infrastructure and improvements. The Aubrey residents in the city, ETJ, will have major difficulties getting to and from work, getting their children to our schools, and for emergency medical service teams to reach accident casualties. I hope EMS can get to my house with the traffic. I certainly hope. Case in point, it took 1 to 2 years to get 428 resurfaced. The road was a nightmare for everybody who's been on it. And I saw another sign tonight said August 16th. I assume it's the entrance that they're going to start on the new development. That's starting again with road closures. High Point Ranch development is directly across from Aubrey High School. I'm concerned about the students' safety. on Highway 377 and 428. Add to that, there are 14 wedding venues in the 76227 zip code. There will be a new wedding venue using 428 within a year's time and make that 7. The owner of the current project at 1657 Spring Hill expects to have as many as 400 guests per night. If the 3 venues within 0.4 miles of my home have 400 guests, that's 1,200 vehicles on the corner of McNabb and 428 or Spring Hill. This increases the dangers of driving on 428 or Spring Hill, especially if alcohol is involved. In conclusion, my home is Aubrey, with an old-fashioned charm and inspired by equestrian heritage and a shared love for horses, an industry that has served Aubrey well. As you make your decisions today, I urge you to strongly consider maintaining the residential lot size to 1 acre, increasing more green space and less commercial retail for the High Point Ranch development. Thank you for this time. I appreciate you listening, and it's my hope to preserve the unique quality of Aubrey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie Barnett. Connie Barnett is. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is-
They're the ones that need to be.
Can you hear me? My name is Connie Barnett and I live at 6531 McNatt. And like many Aubrey residents, we moved here to get away from the city. No noise, no traffic, neighbors kind of far away, nothing but the sound of horses, basically a better quality of life. Now I hear nothing but cars, trucks, construction equipment, wedding venues and sirens, which is why I'm here. I'd like to share my concerns over agenda item 4 and 5, combining them together. In both of these items, the developers are asking to change the land usage from 1 acre lots to lots ranging from approximately 1/6 of an acre to 1/10 of an acre, which is well below the city zoning ordinance. These two items together are requesting to turn approximately 253 1 acre lots into approximately 1,700 smaller lots. I want to address the impact this will have on traffic. If each house has an average of 2 cars, just say that. With the current plan, we'll have an additional 506 cars already on our very busy roads. If you approve their request, this number will skyrocket to 3,400 cars, all within 1.5 miles. This doesn't even include the impact from the other developments or the numerous new wedding venues who each estimate bringing in hundreds of cars each weekend. Per Texas DOT, there are only 2 plans in our area. One is to expand 377 and the other is to expand 2931 with a note on them that construction is to begin within 4 years. So we're looking at multiple years before these projects even start. And by then it's going to be too late. And then the construction will start and it's going to get even worse. We're looking at approximately 5 to 7 years of congestion, and McNatt, my sleepy road, will become the major throughway to get from 428 to 2931. 506 cars is going to be bad enough, but if this proposal is accepted, it will be 7 times worse with 3,400 additional vehicles. I'd also like to address the impact that this will have on property values, considering I live within 1/2 mile of this residential area. Cramming 6 to 9 houses into an acre will create an area of dense population, lower housing prices, increased traffic and pollution. These factors will have a direct impact on the crime rate. I think we can all agree we don't want another Providence Village that turns into a Section 8 housing nightmare near us, which is exactly what will happen if this is approved. An undesirable neighborhood can decrease your property value by as much as 10%. I can't imagine what 2 will do to my property value. The only winners in these 2 proposals are the developers. Instead of selling approximately 253 houses, they will be selling 1,700 much cheaper ones, which will more than double their revenue. When all the construction started around me, I started asking questions. The people from surrounding cities are asking questions too. They want to know what's happened to Aubrey City Council. Have they lost their minds? And that's a direct quote. Unfortunately, residents believe the people they voted into office will do the right thing to keep their city a place they want to live, and they don't get involved until it's too late. I hope it's not too late for us to make a difference, and you have that power. According to your website, you strive to make the city work better for your residents. Here's your chance to prove it. I pray you do the right thing and reject these proposals. Do it for the people who voted you in. for the community and our surrounding communities. These are the tough decisions that people remember and will be reminded of when it's time to vote. Thank you for your time.
Denise DeRusha, is that correct? I have Denise. If anybody else would like to speak right now, you'll just need to go to the podium, state your name and your address.
Because I call it football. Alex Sidak, I live at 6696 Paradise Drive. Great presentations. I'm not as polished. I figured we'd have 2 minutes. But I wanted to talk about the factors for consideration in the presentation that the young lady made. First point was on December 13th, 2021, the city approved a development agreement consistent with uses proposed for this property and subsequently annexed it on January 25th. I don't do this for a living, but how can you approve something on land you don't have purview over? Like it was annexed after they agreed to do this, so that's just shady. Impact of any and all uses in the requested zoning district to the surrounding properties, infrastructure will be installed at a capacity adequate to support the proposed development, which will mitigate any negative impacts upon surrounding property. We live right between those two driveways they're proposing. We've already felt the negative impacts. If you try to go to the high school in the morning, or when they get out, I mean, you're waiting in line already, and that's before the houses come. This is going to turn our area into Windsong. If you try to go to Windsong, I mean, it's 40 minutes. As far as getting infrastructure in, shouldn't the roads go in first before the trucks, before the houses? I mean, that's kind of like putting the cart in front of the horse. This is Spring Hill, but it's still FM 428, right? We drive our tractors on it. You had thousands of trips. What's going to happen? There's going to be accidents. People are going to die. Somebody mentioned a traffic impact report. That's great. I don't know if they've done an environmental impact report. The red-tailed hawks, clearly protected by the Environmental Migratory Bird Act in 1912. I haven't seen any type of environmental impact report. I'd like to see a wastewater management plan. It's not on the county website or the city website. There's just a lot of questions that haven't been answered, and it's not good for Aubrey. We're talking about on this last point, the property is unusable for the purposes allowed under the existing zoning. It's perfectly usable for 1 acre lots. Like that's what it's zoned for. That's what it's designed for. We're talking about making it appropriate, right? It was annexed so it could be properly regulated. No, this is unregulation. I mean, even going from 1 acre to 7,500 square feet, 52% of them are, you know, when it said 4,800 square feet, I thought we were talking like house size, not lot size. It just doesn't fit the character of Aubrey, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll keep going. Tom Beatty, 6380 Private Road 2712. I'll be right in the middle of it as well as these other folks are. It's going to change the culture. This change that's being requested of the zoning is really contrary to the original master plan that I believe was developed for Aubrey, which was larger size lots and homes on those larger size lots, not these small homes that are going to turn into rental properties. Is that what we want in Aubrey? Is a bunch of rental properties? It doesn't serve us well. It hurts our home values. And some of the questions I have are somewhat minor into the big picture, but it's a simple procedure of building. We don't have the proper road base prior to them entering the road. So they're carrying all this dirt into the road. Vehicles are getting damaged just from the dirt and debris of these trucks. No one is looking at that. The water usage, my
Anyone else?
Reiterate. Sorry. Just so there's another phase. I don't know if I could do any better than these two ladies and this gentleman just coming up and telling that. My wife and I moved here. We bought
Can you state
property.
your name and your address?
Sorry. Gary Conway, 1103 East Blackjack. I'll be on the north side of that 5, whatever this is. Although we've experienced the dust and debris from whatever's happening here. So it's kind of interesting that it's now being zoned, but it's already happening. That's always kind of like, he said, cart before the horse. I mean, man, we're carving before it started. So it's like it's already going. And so I don't know if it is too late or not too late, but my wife and I moved here because we wanted to get out of that. We're not lifetime Aubrians, but this is the plot where we said, oh my goodness, this is a good place for us to be. We want to raise horses. We want to do what we loved as a hobby. I still have to work in downtown Dallas, thank God. At some point I'll retire from that. But this is my haven. This is where I come to relax. And we're about to put things in here that I'm trying to get away from, but that's not what Aubrey was. There used to be signs around here and there still are. Horse Country USA. Just switch out one of the letters. It's House Country USA now with this. So we got to think about that. Is that really with the quality of life that we want our citizens to have? It's not my quality of life that I came out here for. I mean, we bought almost 21 acres and we did what we could to improve it exactly as it was, as much as we could. Some of the other items that these gentlemen brought up as far as some plans, as far as how do you look at, traffic, environmental studies, all those kind of things. I mean, if you look in how these things are built as far as what's happening and the way the watershed comes out of here, that's another huge item that I know I've faced on my own property and I didn't change the profile. And so changing the profile, flattening this whole thing and then flattening what's up on top of that just to get here, I think we got a lot bigger problems than that, even if you try to go forward. So in my mind and my wife's mind, we're just trying to keep our quality of life in some way. And at least having 1 acre homes sort of helps to do that because it does regulate kind of who's there and what's there and how many's there. And I think we can suffice with how that works, but 1,700 houses is pretty dramatic. Thank you.
My name's Mark Mitchell. It's 6680 Paradise Drive. So when I pull out every morning to go to work, I have to look at this mess of what it used to be Mr. Houlihan's place. The traffic, there's times I've sat there for, it feels like 10 minutes to get out with just a truck. You add a horse trailer or an RV behind you, and someone has to go stand out on the road to see if anybody's coming. I've almost been hit by a Denton County Sheriff 3 times in 12 years. They're coming around that corner at 60, 65 miles an hour. And it's like a death trap as it is. So you add 1,700 more vehicles, there's going to be a fatality somewhere. The wedding venues that have been brought up, the noise is ridiculous. I know it's in the county, you can't do anything about it, but we don't need to add any more. There's already enough. I'm on a well, I'm not on Mustang water, but I can tell the difference in my water quality with all the development going on. So, adding a few homes, progress. Adding a bunch of homes, not progress. That's all I've got.
It's up to the chair.
Yes, you have 3 additional minutes.
Real quickly, I'll tell you, when I worked with FEMA in 2018, I was assigned to the Paradise, California fires. And I'm gonna,
The microphone, we can't hear you.
okay.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Darlene Hargrove. I live at 6489 Magnat Road, and I want to share with you when I worked with FEMA in 2018. I was assigned to the Paradise, California survivors. My concern, my worry with all this, and I understand growth is coming. However, if there's a fire or an EF5 tornado, I don't know that we're going to get out. And I don't see that anyone's got any recommendations to soothe my worries or to give me a plan of action, what happens when. And that's all. Thank you.
Go ahead. the entrance.
So, no, ma'am, I'm sure it's me. So, my name is Steve G, Arbor 81 West. We own the Keeneland project. We do not own the High Point project, but I'm probably going to make a speech that it's going to serve us both. Our partnerships own additional properties to the east, which is another 1,200 lots, same size. This project, the purpose of, I'm gonna give a little bit of background history, and I'll be glad to meet with any and all of y'all afterwards, answer any questions I can. I'm not gonna be able to appease your concerns, but we had the choice. The other two projects are in the county, they're ETJs. We've entered into development agreements with the city that allows for future annexation. At the time, this property was planned to go into the same MUD district. Staff and council reached out, said, hey, can we go ahead and annex this? We're working jointly on building offsite water, which we've already built down and across under 377 to serve the water. There is what we call the Keeneland Lift Station, which handles all the sewer on that. We're going to end up handling all the sewer on that side of town. We negotiated the terms on that. I was paying our share. The High Point folks are paying their share. The city's taking care of their cost. Massive improvements. But the purpose of the development agreement was to say, hey, if you come, you do these things, you build it this way. Our zoning case tonight is to clean up some items at the request of the city. But we have our development agreement. It doesn't matter if it's zoned 10,000 acre, one lot for the whole tract or for that. I believe y'all understand that. I don't think y'all understand that. So,
I think it sounds shady out of the way.
well, sir, there was public hearings when we did this. Well, anyway, I'll be glad to meet with any and all of y'all as long as you want, but this is, I'm just bringing this up for their purposes so they understand.
You're doing a good job.
Okay.
He's got a question.
That's gonna have to wait till after the meeting. Thank you. Do we have anybody else who would like to participate in the public hearing?
Sorry, I'm unfamiliar with this process, but Gary Conway, 1103 East Blackjack. I had a question for the gentleman who just made a quick presentation. What I thought I heard was that your Keeneland group made an agreement with the city to do certain projects in exchange for a zoning. Is that what I heard?
We're the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I know that someone was speaking about the actual city council, so we're not the city council. There was a development agreement that was entered in with the city council. The city council approved in 2021.
You understand my
In
question?
2022, that property was annexed into the city. Most property owners are not going to annex into a city unless there's an agreement. I mean, if you were developing something, would you annex? It's a kind of process.
Well,
So that,
Right.
that is a process.
so yeah, I was just,
Mr.
so
Stack. That's
from
just-
a
it's-
layman's
it's
perspective,
right,
not
yes.
understanding where you're at, it sounds like to me, what I thought I heard was, if we do these projects to help city over here, you will help me with this particular development project over
I
there.
don't think that's how that
That's
works.
kind of what so if somebody
I-
could clear
I-
that up. that'd be great.
After the meeting, okay. Yes, Leanne.
Madam Chairman, Leanne, Director of Public Works. I want to clear that up. I think the question the gentleman was alluding to was contract zoning, which is illegal, and that is not the case. This was an error in the city's development agreement. There was some turnover at the time when this was all approved. I wasn't even here. The city manager wasn't here. You weren't here. But this property was supposed to have been zoned at the same time that it was annexed. And since the city failed to do that, it had the temporary annexation or temporary zoning that we're trying to change it from now. We're just trying to clean that up and actually apply the zoning to what the development agreement says so that we're not in breach of contract or subject to lawsuits. We're just trying to clean it up. So some of the comments I heard was, sounds like we're a little late. We're a little late. All of the public hearings took place back when the development agreement was done. And I don't even know exactly how many there were or what all happened there, but we are pretty much stuck with the language that's in the development agreement unless we want to find a way to get out of that agreement or deal with the breach of contract. I can address any questions about water and sewer if you'd like. I know there was some comments about water and sewer. The Mustang Water and Sewer has absolutely nothing to do with this process. The folks that are talking about low pressure, they're not on our system, they're on the Mustang system. All of the water that's being used out here for this development is coming from the city of Aubrey. And it's coming through pipelines that have been recently installed and upsized for the development. That process has been going on for about 3 years. And that can be available if you have any other questions.
Close the public hearing at 6:39.
Is there any way to get a copy of the developer's agreement? Or is that
Yes.
something, the developer's agreement, the water, all of the things that have gone into the infrastructure that won't harm the existing residents? Is the concern, it's like all of the things that people want to know,
Website.
or is it? Or is it? in the-
It is public record, so anybody can request through the city secretary a copy of the development agreement.
What are we in breach of contract if we don't make this change? What exactly are we?
I'm not legal, but when you enter into an agreement with someone and you agree to specific terms, if you don't follow through with that, then you're a breach of contract.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
but
just
it-
didn't know what terms were not.
So it would be for the lot count, the lot sizes, because when a developer comes in and puts together this overall plan, they have numbers they run based on the kind of lots, the type of home. You know, currently, we're not allowed to say that it has to be a brick home. You know, they could do a wood frame home if they wanted to. But through this development agreement, the city is able to require them to design a little bit nicer home or have a particular look to it. So all those things are spelled out in the development agreement. Also, the costs of what they have to pay to upsize the system to build a new wastewater treatment plant. All of those things are in that development agreement.
Has the wastewater plant been developed? Has it been built yet?
It's in design right now.
It's not.
It is not, we don't need it online until the 400th or 500th home. So it is being designed right now and should go out for bid first of the year.
That allows. Yeah.
Thomas Fletcher with Kimley Horn. I'm the engineer for the High Point Ranch. So when the development agreement was done, there were a lot of engineering studies that were done with the city's engineer at the time that, or now it still is, BHC. So when we looked at this and kind of going back and giving a little bit of history, I was figured I would speak on the next item, but this is a good opportunity because it really does, as Steve mentioned, it kind of relates to both of these items. But when the development agreement was initially looked at, because we're in the county, their zoning ordinance does not apply to the county. So a project in the county could go out and do a modular home development. I mean, there's a lot of different development types that it could do. So when we went, we started talking and communicating with the city about the ability to do a development agreement. We're in the county, we're paying county tax, not city tax. So there was the discussion of, okay, if we come into the city would provide water and sewer. What does that look like? What improvements would need to be made in order to provide service? What would the responsibility be of the development? What does that look like? So the city's engineer started looking at that. We worked with them. We were working through different site plans. At one point, the High Point Ranch development had a multifamily component, being that it's on US 377. We were originally proposing to do some multifamily. The feedback we got, and there were public hearings for that, was that The city really didn't want to see any more multifamily. They wanted to see single family detached, and they also wanted to see more commercial. So we ended up removing the multifamily from that plan and adding more commercial. But as we got to the point where we had a land plan that we were coming towards an agreement on, then we started looking at what's the water demand, what's the sewer demand, what are the offsite improvements that need to be made. As Steve had mentioned, this was a regional approach. There is a lift station going in adjacent to the Keeneland property that is going to serve Keeneland. It's going to serve High Point. It's going to enable the city to take two existing sanitary sewer lift stations that are on the west side of US 377 off the system. Those lift stations, they require an extreme amount of maintenance. You have electrical costs. If they go out, you have to get someone out there immediately because they present problems. There's land area to the north of Blackjack Road that naturally drains to the south. So all these improvements enable the city system to serve those properties when they develop. For High Point Ranch, the contribution for these offsite and these improvements is roughly $25 million. The initial improvements with the lift station, there's a 16-inch water main that's going along Spring Hill Road. There's a force main that's going from the lift station back to the west side of 377. There's a gravity main in the downtown area that's being upsized to a 24-inch. The wastewater treatment plant is going to be expanded and improved. All of these things are developer participated in the funding. So they're not adding to the burden of the city. The developers are actually paying their pro rata share. And that was important when we negotiated it, because originally the High Point Ranch was in a dual certified CCN area, and CCN is convenience or certificate for convenience and necessity. That's who serves that area. So it could have either been Mustang Water or it could have been City of Aubrey. And so really all these things factored in, and I know I'm kind of going on, but all these things factored in. So there were a lot of studies done. There were public hearings. We looked at the infrastructure and the needs. The High Point Ranch developers already paid his initial priority one for the offsite improvements of $4 million. So when you ask the question about what does breach mean, I'm not an attorney either, but I do know that the developer, the client I represent, has already submitted to the city $4 million for those improvements that are in construction and almost complete. There's additional costs that are going to be and funds that are going to be provided to the city when it gets time to expand that wastewater treatment plant. There's also water system improvements that we're responsible for contributing to that are on Aubrey or on Blackjack Road. There's, I think, water pump station. I think there's another well. So there's a significant amount of infrastructure that these two developments are participating in order to help the overall city system. And it was a collaborative effort in that a lot of times, like I said, developers look at what is necessary just to provide the capacity for their development. And when we looked at this as a whole, we said, okay, this is the service area. This is Aubrey. How do we set Aubrey up for success and ability to serve the residents in the future growth with the water and the sewer system? So I don't know, hopefully that maybe helps a little bit with your question. And I'm also happy I was here during the entire process with the previous staff as part of the coordination for the development agreement, and happy to answer any questions regarding that if there are any.
I have another question, sorry.
No,
As somebody that is not an engineer, that does not know all the things, I do know that the roads, all of the roads around 377, 428, where does that factor in on your timeline, just like the water, anything else, or does it?
Right,
Since the
it does.
city is not
So
responsible for the road.
So 428 is a TxDOT roadway, so we have to go through and do TxDOT permitting. TxDOT had recently done improvements to 428. They're still working on those. They've widened and added shoulders. As Ms. Stringfellow showed you with the Keeneland development, which is the same with the High Point development. The developer at the developer's cost goes through and widens the road at the drive entries. So what if the roads weren't widened and there weren't left turn lanes added, then what would happen is you would have backup traffic due to this development. Because there are left turn lanes being added, when you go through and do the TIA based on the design speed of the road and the number of trips turning into the development, there is criteria for how much storage needs to be provided. So that storage length is based on the development and the impact of the development. So as people are going and trying to turn in, they're not blocking that through lane. So all 4 drives, 2 with High Point, 2 with Keeneland on FM 428 will all have left turn lanes so that when houses are being built, there is locations for cars to queue in order to turn left into the development. So that's one of the things that provides benefit. The other thing that the developments do is that on the exit, they have left turn movements and right turn movements. So someone turning right is not held up by someone waiting to turn left. So that also provides benefit to the development. On US 377, we've met with TxDOT there as well, and they've already got schematic designs for the widening of US 377. They've already reached out to the client that I represent to acquire the right of way. That's in process. Normally, the process for TxDOT, they would go through environmental assessment. They would go through design enough to where they can identify the right of way. They acquire the right of way as they're finalizing design, and then they would go into construction once they have all the right of way acquired. I'm not certain of the TxDOT timeframe, but when we went through and we looked at the development, so a subdivision, High Point Ranch is just now getting started. We just recently broke ground. We've done our demo. We're starting our lot grading. So usually for a phase of a subdivision, that's about 16 to 18 months to get on the ground and get final accepted. So we would then take, as we start building houses, generally the new home construction is about 4 to 6 months. So really you're going to start seeing houses probably in about 22 to 24 months. So we're probably about 2 years away from seeing residents. The home builder that we're working with, they're anticipating that they would sell roughly 20 to 25 homes per month. So that's if you start in 2 years from now, you should probably end up having new residents on the magnitude of somewhere around 20 to 25 per month is what they're projecting. Certainly the market could change that, but we have analyzed and looked at the roads. When we looked at where the connection to US 377 is, it's our understanding that the timing of that will be such that those improvements are coming in as we're in the earlier stages of the development. Our main entry, the 377 is going to be a 6-lane divided roadway. Our main entry is going to have a left turn lane there. It will have a right turn lane to aid in traffic. So the TxDOT improvements that are coming on 377 are going to help as well. And that's certainly factored in. But a lot of times, I mean, it's the gentleman who said, it feels like the roads should be built before the homes. That unfortunately development usually precedes the road improvements, and that's just generally how things work. I know the developers would love for the roads to be there and in place prior to the start, but unfortunately it just doesn't. Development generally doesn't work that way. And it's the development drives the road construction, and unfortunately the roads generally just follow after the development.
I'm not able to access the future use land plan on our website. Is that not available? I clicked it a couple times. Yes. Yeah. It's Aubrey's future land use plan.
Yeah, it was deleted as it was, or
It is down right now. Okay, so I am gonna make a comment that I'm aware of our plan. I just wanted to look at it again, that area was projected for 1 acre lots. And Mr. G and I've had conversations for other projects that I'm not happy that it is less than 1 acre. And this is a development plan which was entered into by the council, which does not allow our body to make that change. So, but he's aware of my disagreement with the project itself. So with that being said, is there any other questions?
I guess the question is, was this here just to let people go up and say their piece and we're pretty much hand tied?
No, no,
But you guys don't, you guys can vote.
no, sir, yeah. No, we give a recommendation to the city council based on this, and is there going to be a public hearing for the city council as well on this item?
Okay.
Yes, yes, there'll be a public hearing. with
yes, on the
city
24th.
council As well. So I would invite anyone that would like to address the city council to that meeting as well. But we would be, our body gives a recommendation to the city council. So.
Know what you're waiting for.
What I'm waiting for is,
Well,
we're outside of the public hearing right
are
now.
we outside the public
Yes, sir.
hearing?
We just don't know who these folks are.
With these folks, huh? Well, you bet Ms. Stringfellow. This is our attorney. He's the attorney, the city secretary. Okay, yes, yeah. City secretary. Yeah. They're my right hands. On my left-hand side. Yes. Okay. So at this point, we would need to make a motion.
I would move to table this so that I can think about it and look at it a little bit more. Going from 1 acre. Oh, yeah, she's good at that.
This is legal.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to advise you that if you are going to table this item, you should table it to a date certain.
Okay.
So that the public here knows
Okay.
too, when you want to, and what information you're looking for to make your decision.
Would we still be within our timelines to table it to the September 14th meeting? This meeting, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So you would want to table it to the September 14th. meeting.
I would move to table it to the September 14th meeting to look at the land use plan. And the development agreement.
Oh, second.
All in favor? Okay, no one opposed. Okay, we'll be moving on to item number 5. Hold a public hearing and make a recommendation to the city council on zoning change for the High Point Ranch development from agricultural residential district to temporary single-family residential district to planned development district for shopping center district uses, certain commercial district uses, single-family residential district uses, and delineated development standards for lot area, lot dimensions, yards, lot coverage, building design, screening, and landscaping on approximately 460.7 acres situated within the F. Trevino Survey, abstract number 1243, generally located on the northeast corner of Spring Hill Road and Highway 377. Ms. Stringfellow. Okay.
So this one is very similar. You've already heard a lot about the water, sewer, and infrastructure. But just let me give you a better idea of the location here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So this is High Point. So this property then is north of the Kingland development that you were just looking at. Of course, it is significantly larger. This one is 400. So, and that's the area that's in the blue outline, by the way. So this is right on the east side of Highway 377, north of Spring Hill Road, and then south of Blackjack Road. So this one has a couple of zoning designations, actually. So similar to the last property, a majority of this property was also annexed. So there was a development agreement on all of the property on June 30th, 2021. And then the 309 acres, and the area that was annexed is the area that's in gray. That area was annexed. The area that you see is AGR, that area was actually already within the city. So that was designated as ag residential. And then they annexed the 309 acres. And so similar to the last project, because so much of this property was in the ETJ, there was a desire to have some control over the lot sizes and the uses that would be in this area. And so this was the development agreement, again, that was entered into at that time. And so on this one, you have, again, commercial and residential. I'm going to start with the residential portion of it first. And so for the residential, it's 1,450 lots to be developed in 6 phases. And of course, that could somewhat change, but initially that's what they presented to the city. And so 30% of the total number of lots would be 7,150 or greater, 39% between 6,000 and 7,149, 31%, 4,600 to basically 6,000 square feet, under 6,000 square feet. And the lot widths there ranging anywhere from 40 feet to 60 feet. So in terms of the building materials on this one, it's a minimum of 60% stucco, stone, coastal stone, and brick, or cementitious siding. However, there was a stipulation that if there was cementitious siding, that it would have to have a certain architectural style, that style being Cape Cod, Victorian, or something similar. You'll also notice that there is a park area, basically in the general area of where there's an existing floodplain. And that is that municipal park there that is next to the commercial north of Spring Hill Road. And then they also have an amenity center. I believe that amenity center is probably HOA private, but that would also service the development. So now we're going to go to the commercial. So last one had no commercial. This one, just because of its location, it lends itself better to having a significant amount of commercial. So this one is almost 40 acres of commercial. At this time, no specific development has been given to the city. However, the uses, one thing that the city wanted to make sure, again, because of the location, that there were some restricted uses of the commercial. And one thing I do need to point out to you is that in the development agreement, there were no specific uses for what the commercial would look like. So it only detailed the residential. And so this one, you have, I guess you could say, a little bit more leeway in terms of what you can do for the PD on the uses for the commercial. Now, there's one thing that they did put in the development agreement, which was a good thing for the city, that the city needed to have. And that was that they would meet the design requirements that are currently in the code. And the reason why that's important is because in 2019, the state said that the city could no longer enforce any building material requirements unless it was part of a development agreement. And so that was in the development agreement that they added. But in terms of specific commercial uses, again, those are not in the development agreement. So one of the things that as part of this PD that the city has wanted to do is make sure that any type of intense commercial uses, basically auto body shops, machine shops, any equipment sales, those will require you all and city council to approve a specific use permit. And what that is basically like the process we're going through tonight. That same process would have to happen for those particular uses. Otherwise, any other type of retail, restaurant, service related uses, all those uses would be allowed. And so jumping into traffic, this one is, quite a bit more complicated here. But just, I'll give you a real quick summary and then of course the applicant can go into a little bit more detail. So what those blue dots are, those are the major access points into the site. And these are also areas where they are going to be doing some additional improvements to the roadways. So you heard the applicant talking about these additional turn lanes. Those will be areas where they will be adding those additional turn lanes. And so you got 6 in total. And one of them that is access C, which, let's see if I can highlight it there. So this access C, you actually are going to, on the southbound, there will be a left turn lane as well as a right turn lane northbound. And, because it's Highway 377, that's what's triggering something both ways. And so on the peak hour trips, of course, and all, there will be more trips entering, but peak hour is, really referring to what is the highest point at which you'll see the most cars entering and leaving in the morning hours and the evening hours. And so similar, just like your last case, again, prior development agreement, those same factors for consideration or before you tonight. And this is also scheduled for city council on August 24th. However, if there were similar action, we would need to resend notices for that city council. And so again, your potential actions that you could make for tonight. And if you all want me to, what I will do, in case there are any additional, let's see. I'll just stay at the map so that you all. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. That we'll just leave it on there and you can ask questions.
Do you want to hear from the applicant before we go into the public hearing this time?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening, Thomas Fletcher, Kimley Horn, 6160 Warren Parkway, Frisco, Texas. Again, I guess what I would ask you to consider is that when we went through this process, we met with the city, we had public hearings, the city council voted to approve the DA because there were many things that were mutually beneficial to both the developer and the city. The developer was agreeing to utilize City of Aubrey water and sewer versus going and utilizing Mustang. They were agreeing to fund improvements to improve the city's water and sewer system. We were agreeing to a limited or a set number of lots. We were agreeing to single family detached versus doing multifamily in the county, doing modular, doing some other uses that may have been less desirable. We agreed to building standards and building material standards as part of that DA. As Ms. Stringfellow mentioned, there was a House bill in 2019 that basically said cities can no longer regulate building materials. So with the development agreement, you were able to ensure that there was going to be masonry, that there was going to be some level of quality within the development. In addition to that, one of the things that we heard is there was another development that the city had entered into an agreement with, and apparently the agreement wasn't sound. There was supposed to be a park. There was not a park that was granted. When we were having these discussions with the city, we said, okay, we've got this open space area. We've got an area that the city wanted to see as commercial. We had residential. We wanted to create a buffer. So we agreed to the dedication of a municipal park, something that was desirable and lacking within the city of Aubrey. And within that municipal park, there was going to be a minimum amount of improvements. There were going to be trails. There was going to be a nice parking lot. There was going to be a basketball court. There was going to be a playground and play structure. And because the city didn't have a parks department at the time or the resources to maintain that, the development Basically, the agreement says that the developer and the development will maintain that until such time as the city has the facilities, the department, and the resources to do so. Again, my request of you would be to approve this. We do have the development agreement. My question would probably be for the city attorney is, my understanding is that whether you table it, whether you approve it, because we have the DA, we would still be able to continue moving forward with our development. Tabling it does not stop our development. It does not slow us down. It's not a cease on construction. We have done, there were questions about environmental studies. There were questions about flood studies. We've done environmental assessments. We've done flood studies. Those have been submitted to the city. They have been reviewed and approved. And basically what we do is an overall flood study for the project. And then as we develop in phases, we provide the study for that individual phase to show that we're not creating any negative downstream impact. So we are, you can see where the main tributaries come through the property. We are preserving a lot of those trees, a lot of those ephemeral streams. We are proposing a municipal park. We're doing a significant amount of improvements. The developer, the city hired the consultant, but the developer funded all the offsite easement acquisition. So prior to, during the process, because the development agreement was approved, the city started the process to go acquire all offsite easements for all the improvements, the offsite sanitary sewer, the offsite. I believe there were roughly 18 to 20 easements that had to be acquired. As the agreements were made for those easements, the developer is the one that funded the acquisition of that. So there has been a lot of coordination with the city, coordination with the city council. There's been public hearings. All of that was taken into consideration when your city council voted to approve the development agreement. The development agreement stated that upon annexation, the city would initiate zoning so that the zoning would be in compliance with the DA. Obviously, the annexation occurred some time ago and the zoning is just now before you. As Leanne had mentioned, that was really something that got missed, and this really should have been before you probably a year and a half ago. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but my request would be for y'all to approve this and take it to your city council since they had approved the development agreement.
I can address it. Okay, first, I'm gonna make an informed decision. And if I decide I want to make a motion to table something, it is not to punish you, it is not to stop you, it is not to anything else. I don't like the implication that that is what you say we're trying to do. We're trying to, no, stop. I'm a citizen. I'm a homeowner in Aubrey. I make, along with these people, a recommendation to the city council. The city council will make whatever decision they want to make. We're making a rather big decision that is going to change Aubrey. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But there are so many legalities. I think we have the right to take a look at some of this. I've had 3 days to look at this agenda. So I'm not trying to stop you. I'm trying to make a decision.
And I appreciate that. I'm just, my position here is I represent my client and they have a development agreement. And I'm just asking you to consider the development agreement and all the process that went into that development agreement. And again, I'm asking you, you have the ability. I mean, I'm not trying to change your vote.
Well, okay,
Can we stop? All right, we're going to have a public hearing we need to get into. So unless there's anything else you have for us, I'm gonna go ahead and move us into the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, gonna open the public hearing up at 7:12. I have a lot of people that had 4 and 5. If anybody would like to step up to the mic again. You have an addition, you have 3 more minutes.
I just want to register this. So
Say your
it
name again,
sounds
give me the
like
whole
Miss
process.
sorry,
Gary
Gary
Conway,
Conway,
yes.
1103 East Blackjack. I'm directly to the north of this particular one. And while it's sort of devastating to look at when you see it visually. I haven't necessarily always been at a loss of words, but I kind of am. That's an incredible amount of homes shoved into very small spaces. And this is less on the architectural side of what it's supposed to look like than the other group of the Keeneland group. So I think that's an interesting point here. But I get this, and I'd like to see the floods. I mean, I don't know how much this information is available to us as a public. Some of it's not. I've asked for some public and got denied. Public information got denied before. I've asked for that. I'd like to know. I mean, since it's literally going to be across the street from me, I'd really like to know. And I know the developer put $4 million in. You should see what my wife and I put into our equestrian place that we wanted to retire at. So I can appreciate where your developer is. He stands to make more money than that. I don't. I stand to lose because of this issue. And so that's the point that I'm looking at. And Mr. Kennedy, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of how we're feeling back here, because this group has this kind of funky static. And that is, I don't think we have a choice. What's been told to us is the city's already made that decision. He's pointed out, you got an agreement, been pointed out, it's legally in some version of agreement, whether it's misstepped or not. And we just have to eat it. And I think that's where we're at. And I think that's why we don't like it so much. We didn't feel like we really got an opportunity here. And you can say public hearing all you want to, sir. But I don't think a lot of us didn't see that. And if we were even granted any stuff to that. So I guess I would register my opposition to this number 5. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to at least take a step back, check out the legalities of the agreements themselves, kind of understand what that means. And at least listen to those of us who have some real concerns and have actually had real dollars and real lifestyle and we're about to change the lifestyle of this thing. We're no longer equestrian anymore. That's not what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Susan Hargrove, 6945, I'm sorry, 6495 McNatt Road. And to add to this, I'm gonna tell you straight out that no, I didn't hear anything about these meetings. I just recently got involved. I've spent hours going through the minutes on who did what and when, and it's confusing to us. I'd like to see a newsletter saying, hey, guys, we got a project coming in. And I get it. I'm in the ETJ. I chose to be in the ETJ. I have nothing bad to say about the city of Aubrey. I've worked for the school districts. I've driven a bus. Need I say more? But as far as being in the loop of what's happening, I had no idea. I mean, when I work for FEMA, I'm working 12 hours a day. I don't have time to go read this stuff. Okay. And now I'm learning and I'm watching and I'm reading. And while I'm in the ETJ, I just feel helpless. My home is my value. And I'm going to lose money on this revenue if all this comes to fruition. So it's concerning. And I don't really have a leg to stand on, and it bothers me for a lot of reasons. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Beatty, 6380 Private Road 2712. I appreciate you guys at least having a backbone to take a step back and really look at this. And the fact that we got an existing agreement that's been approved, I think is, and it's not being presented in front of this decision, I think is an error. I think it's an error for someone from Frisco to tell us to approve something that would not be approved in Frisco. Would the city of Frisco approve this? I've lived off of Warren Parkway. I know Frisco wouldn't approve this subdivision. Why? Because they have a master plan. And we're not following guidance on a master plan, voting on something like this. So I appreciate you guys taking a step back. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else? We're going to close the public hearing at 7:18.
I motion to table this except with the same conditions as we did the. For September 14th. Yes, yes.
I'll second.
Get that? Yes. All in favor? All right. No one's opposed. Okay, item number 6, consider and make a recommendation to the city council on a revised preliminary and final plat of High Point Ranch Phase 1A being 81.64 acres out of the F. Trevino Survey Abstract Number 1243, Denton County, Texas, located east of US 377, bounded on the north by East Blackjack Road and on the south by Spring Hill Road.
Good evening. I'm Kate Ball, another planner for the city. We have the revised preliminary and final plat for Phase 1 of High Point. So you have seen the conceptual drawings of that. And if I can move backward, we have the location. This is the zoning map of the city. And so you've got the area of the entire development shaded. And the circle is the general location of the Phase 1 portion of High Point. And this is the revised preliminary and final plat, a portion shown. It's on several pages that that you will be looking at and considering this evening. The conceptual plan that you've seen as well. And the Phase 1 that we're looking at is down here at the bottom. And this is backup information, and this is the development agreement. I don't know if some people want to have a look at that. I use to look at the plat and the requirements for the plat. So I will leave the plat there. That's kind of the biggest area. So this property, as we know, is within the city of limits of Aubrey and within the ETJ. Bounded on the north by East Blackjack Road and the south by Spring Hill Road. And the zoning is AG, the agricultural residential for the westernmost portion, but the rest is the unzoned, which reverts to the single family, the temporary single family zoning. And it is also the land use that I reviewed this plat under is the development agreement that the city has with the developer. So the future land use plan is neighborhood commercial, estate neighborhood, and floodplain and open space. And so this preliminary plat was approved March of 2022 with the understanding that the developer would need to go back and review the location of the UTRWD, the easement with UTRWD. So preliminary plats are valid for 2 years, at which time the final plat needs to be approved. While generally in conformance with the original preliminary plat and the development agreement, this plat has deviated from the originally approved preliminary plat by shifting lots because of the location of the UTRWD, the easement. So legal counsel has suggested reviewing this plat as a revised preliminary plat as well as a final plat, so that we have approval of the preliminary plat for record. So negotiation regarding the location of the UTRWD has been the driver for the modification of this plat. But this final plat still needs to be reviewed by UTRWD for the location of, for the notations on the plat. And there were some questions about drainage easements.
Say what UT, I mean, I know what it is, but just for everyone present, what UTRWD is.
That's Upper Trinity Regional Water District. Yeah, so it's their easement for their, yeah,
Referring to.
for their water.
Thank you.
Yes. The electricity for this property is going to be provided by CoServe, which has reviewed the plat and determined that the easement locations and widths are adequate for their needs. This plat also shows 9 lots within the existing floodplain that were noted. Let me see if I can zoom in, that were noted by. So right in there, so we've got some lots so this is the existing floodplain. Oops, say wrong way. So we have some lots down here that we showed, and then they follows. The subdivision ordinance does not allow single-family zoned properties to be platted in floodplains. And the applicant developer plans to grade the property such that these lots will no longer fall within it. But there's a process, and the final determination is made by FEMA through a letter of map revision. The plat is missing the names of the signatories. The city needs to have corporate documentation that confirms the names and titles of these people. And the engineer has explained that by the time the final plat is recorded, those names may change. So we want to have the names, the correct information before the plat is signed. So the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review each plat, and you may make a recommendation to approve the plat. You can make a recommendation to approve the plat subject to certain conditions, or you can make a recommendation to deny the plat. The planner recommends conditional approval of this revised preliminary and final plat with these conditions noted below, which are highlighted here. So per Article 10, Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 4.05, the construction plans are still pending approval by the city engineer. I understand there are some comments that still need to be addressed. Per Chapter 10, Article 4, Section 2.051I, residential lots shall not be platted within the flood management area. So the letter of map revision will be needed before the plat can be recorded. Per Article 3, Section 9.02, provision for utility services. So we need confirmation from UTRWD and the city engineer regarding the location and width of the proposed easements. I believe the city engineer is fine with that, but we still need confirmation from UTRWD. And per Article 11, Appendix B, the plat is missing the required signatures and seals. And I believe the Public Works Director has do you have a different recommendation? No? Okay.
Commenting back.
Yeah.
She had a question about 4. That's one that you.
Oh, that's the
typically-
signatures.
That's a typical.
Right. So if you look at the
condition
plat,
that you-
they're right. Here, right. We don't have signatures or seals, right? Everything is by.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was confirming.
And they tend to
that's
wait,
something
they
that you
tend to
do.
wait until approval because it tends to, it's a chore to get all those signatures. And so you need to make sure that you've got the right people signing, but that is
Or if
something
there's a change.
correct. Before you file it for recordation, yes.
And then Leanne had a different recommendation. Those were ran, I apologize.
We're good?
You know, so the one that's on here is not the 1 and 3. The safeguard, it says Public Works Director feels that there are enough safeguards in place to recommend only items 1 and 3 of the conditions.
Is that the Lomer? Yes.
Yes.
The
it's
Lomer and
Lauren with the signatures.
There's 9.
yes, 9 lots.
So I understand there's just 9 lots that are, excuse me, are in the floodplain. They have already started the process, but you have to do grading before you can actually get the LOMAR in place. But they do have that in place. Rather than having them phase out into 2 phases and break those 9 lots into a second phase, we'll hold those permits here at the permitting department. No permits will be issued on those lots until the LOMAR is filed. And that's typical with our community, other cities in our community.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Kate or Leanne?
I don't know what the other one we're doing.
Right. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So I'm not sure, I'm trying to understand. So this is still part of the same piece of property that we decided to table till September.
Yes,
14th, is that
but it's a
correct?
separate issue.
Right.
So we are able to make a recommendation to the council. That would be the council body is the council that will actually approve the preliminary and final plat. So there's a deviation from the preliminary plat that has occurred, which is why it's back in front of us.
Okay.
And so it was previously approved until that, but because there's a change, we now we're looking at it once more.
Okay.
So because it's separate, we were able to make a recommendation.
No.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we recommend we approve this, the conditional approval based on the recommendations by the Public Works Director, items 1 and 3 for the preliminary and final plat.
Is there any public comment on this one?
No, sir, there's not.
No public comment on the trailer.
Not, no,
Okay, it looks like a trailer,
the what?
trailer yard. Okay. Trailer park, sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead, second.
Second. I'll seconding, okay. All in favor? No opposed? Okay. Item number 7, consider and make a recommendation to the city council on a revised preliminary and final plat of Belmont Phase 1 being 37.049 acres out of the F. Trevino survey, abstract number 1243, Denton County, Texas, located east of US 377, bounded on the north by East Blackjack Road and on the south by Spring Hill Road, Highway 428 in the city of Aubrey's ETJ. Okay.
Hello again. So we have another plat. So this is the Belmont subdivision. This is a concept plan for Belmont and Saratoga. So Belmont is this development down here on the bottom. And this is a Denton CAD map. This was easier for me because they had some of the roads already on there. So the area in green is this phase 1 of Belmont. And so you can see that it is sandwiched between East Blackjack, which is up here. This road up here is East Blackjack. And down here, once again, we're on Spring Hill Road. So a little further east from the properties that we've been discussing tonight. This is in the city's ETJ and has an approved development agreement for single-family residential uses. The future land use plan is rural residential and currently it is undeveloped. The applicant has generally provided the required information. The preliminary plat was conditionally approved at the September 22nd City Council meeting. The conditions are shown on the staff recommendation provided here. So these were the conditional approved conditions for the preliminary plat in 2022. So last year, September last year. So while generally in conformance with the original preliminary plat, which was for the entire development, we now have phase 1, which is slightly different from the original preliminary plat. So we are again advised to act on a revised preliminary plat and the final plat. So this phase 1 plat includes encompasses 37.049 acres and creates 150 residential lots. Let me see if I can scroll to that. So this is page 1 of the preliminary plat. revised preliminary and final, pardon me. And this is page 2. So there will be 150 residential lots, 5 HOA lots, and the entire development for Belmont would include 131 acres and create 535 lots and 12 open spaces. So the development agreement talked about needing, excuse me, the rear yard setbacks. I don't know if you've changed those on my understanding for the development agreement is that the rear yard setbacks for the 40-foot wide and the 50-foot wide lots are 10 feet. This is showing 20, but that's perfectly fine because that is greater than the minimum. Right, so this would be a 20-foot rear yard setback as opposed to a 10. So that's still.
Is there only one entrance in and out of that one?
So we've got the entrance down here off of Spring Hill Road. And then on the next page, whoopsie, wrong page, wrong way. There is an easement that is provided, 50-foot access easement between this property and Blackjack Road. So those are 2, right? That would be 2. That would be the.
Yes. Thank you.
CoServe provided a will serve letter, but still needs to coordinate with the developer about an existing underground line, transformer, and cabinet on the property. And they can't approve the plat until that has been addressed. Water and sewer will be provided by Mustang SUD. So the original preliminary plat included a wastewater treatment facility located within the development, but things have changed. And this revised preliminary plat includes a lift station lot instead. So the city of Aubrey will be accepting some of the wastewater until Mustang can build that wastewater treatment facility. And so this lift station lot is being provided to make sure that sewage is addressed for the development.
When are they gonna bail by?
That I do not know. The one thing, we also have a floodplain in this property as well, and we've got 3 lots that currently are within that floodplain. The engineers are working on a letter of map revision. They're doing the engineering studies and they will be submitting that. And the floodplain boundary will change once that letter of map revision has been received, assuming approval from FEMA. The construction plans, I believe, are still being reviewed by the city engineer. I don't believe that they've addressed all those comments. But the city engineer has requested an additional easement along this north access easement. I know, yeah, up here. So we've got this access easement that's 50-foot wide, and the city engineer is requested, and my understanding is that the developer has approved, will be providing an additional easement for drainage slope maintenance, so that the city or whomever can address the drainage needed on either side of that access. So again, your options, you can approve this plat, you can approve this plat conditionally, you can deny the plat. And I will go back to my staff recs. So again, the recommendation from the planner is to conditionally approve those. Conditionally approve the revised preliminary and final plat with the conditions listed. I can read those, or y'all can read them. Do I need to say them? Okay. So the conditions are per chapter 10, article 1, section 4.01C, 4.04 and 4.05. It is necessary and desirable to provide for dedication of rights of way and easements to support new development. So the dedication of right of way and easement along FM 428 and Spring Hill Road needs to be more clearly shown and conform to the approved transportation plan by providing the necessary right of way as measured 60 feet from the center line. So that is something that I did not show on the preliminary plat. At the very bottom down here, it just needs to be clearly shown what the distance is and what the dedication of right of way provided along the Spring Hill Road. And also the provision of the 20-foot of water and utility easement adjacent to that needs to be clearly indicated. And the provision of the slope maintenance agreement that I mentioned for the access easement along here connecting the property to East Blackjack Road. So per chapter 10, article 2, section 4.05, the construction plans are still pending approval by city engineer. Per article 10, chapter 10, article 4, section 2.051I, residential lots shall not be platted within the flood management area. For Article 3, Section 9.02, provision for utility services, confirmation from Mustang and CoServe approving the location and width of the proposed easements. And again, the plat is missing required signatures and seals. And you can see all the blanks, right? We don't have the signatures or seals. And the Public Works Director, again, believes she has safeguards in place to delete condition 2 and 5. I can try and answer any questions or the representative.
Question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. From what I'm reading, this is still in the ETJ. We have a developers agreement
Yes,
and it's not zoned currently.
correct.
It says zoning none. So is this an example of what is going to come back next year because it's going to get annexed and we're going to be in the same position that we were just in on the first two things that we, whatever. I mean,
If
so
and
we
when the
need to do
city
at
and
this point, so we don't end up back. Do you understand the question?
I do.
Okay.
And I want to answer your question about the wastewater treatment as well.
Okay.
But this is a development outside the ETJ. There's no zoning in the ETJ. The city can't control that. But we were able to work a development agreement with the client to try to have some control. It's limited on what we can have outside of our city limits. But we did do that. This development agreement allows us to annex it in approximately 30 years. So as the city continues to work its master plan and develop and grow based on, our ETJ, we're probably going to expand, several miles all directions. And this just helps us control the type of building that happens so that when it does become part of the city, that we don't have substandards that we have to maintain. So the streets that are being built out there, the water and sewer that's being installed, we want to make sure that if we ever do take that over, that it's built to a standard that we can maintain. So that one won't come back.
Yeah, no, I understand the ETJ versus the city,
Yeah.
just those neighborhoods.
Yeah. So there's a lot of debt that goes into these developments and the city wouldn't take on that debt. We wouldn't be able to. So, once they pay their debt down, then later down the road, 20, 30 years, it could be annexed at that time. So on the wastewater, I want to give you a little bit of information on that. So originally the developer had planned to build a wastewater treatment plant, which would be maintained by the developer to treat the sewer for this development. There was a lot of opposed landowners downstream from that, but it did get approved. TCEQ permitted and allowed it to be built. But with all the other development that we had going on and the city's expansion, we will have the capacity. And if that developer contributes to that, and we could treat that sewer for them. It's not our CCN, means that we can't manage that sewer without the CCN holder allowing us to do that, which is Mustang. So we entered into an agreement with Mustang several months back that we would treat the sewer for Mustang, rather than them building a plant and discharging to a receiving stream. It would come to the city of Aubrey, which allows us to generate that revenue to help pay for the infrastructure that we were building anyways. It's just a little bit more in size, which they'll pay for in their impact fees, and the city won't have to contribute.
So that's for all of the city of Aubrey, not just the new construction.
Yes, so our wastewater treatment plant is being sized for the current developments that we know of today. Plus, we are oversizing it for the future, the near future. And we can't go way out, but we have to. That way, we're not always building or adding onto that wastewater treatment plant. So we are adding some capacity. And so we were able to manage their flows with that added capacity.
What about this underground electrical thing that we can't approve the plat without it being taken care of?
I don't know if I can answer that as well as the developer. I know he's been in contact with the power company from end to end. I'm not sure what the status of that is.
Was that in your conditions? If we did a conditional approval?
Can you explain that, Kate?
To be able to explain too much more, other than CoServe said that they would not be able to approve it because they still have infrastructure in this property and they needed to discuss this with the developer applicant. I don't know the status of that infrastructure or that, electrical infrastructure. So if you would like.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Good evening. Again, I'm Steve G. This partnership is Aubrey 54 South LP. We own this project along with the other project to the north, which is called Saratoga, shown on the map. We do have the development agreement in the city. A couple things. First off, to address your question on that, there's an underground transformer that serves the existing barn that's there. CoServe's got to come out and remove that. And we're waiting on updated pricing from them before we issue that. That has to come out of the ground before we can actually start construction. So we concur with all staff requirements for the approval of the plat. Clarification right here, the easement area going to the north on that for our second point of access, we own that property also. It's in a different partnership. We're reserving that property for what we think is going to be the outer loop. We've reserved 1,000 feet of property, right of way from this going up into the Saratoga project up on the north side, and told the county, you got this area, this is what you got to work with right there to come through. Once we know what the outer loop is, we'll make some determinations on that. So we own that property there. I'll be glad to answer any other questions. I think, ma'am, you had something, if maybe not.
The water, the sewer.
The sewer. Oh, okay. She answered the sewer back from it. We still have our permit from TCEQ. We could build a plant there. It's approved. It could be designed and built. But when we're thinking about a regional solution, this was much better solution about getting it back to the city into your big plant instead of a small plant. Someday Mustang will build another plant up in this area, or maybe it's a conjunction of a plant between Mustang and the city of Aubrey. But for now, this solves the problem, not only for Belmont, but for Saratoga. And you'll be seeing a Saratoga plat probably in the next 2 months because that project's moving forward also.
Do we have any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve with the planners
Recommendations?
conditions.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Number 8, consider and make a recommendation to the city council on site plan for lot 1, block C, Pine Ridge Pavilion Edition, phase 2, located west of the high school and southeast corner of intersection 377 and Pine Ridge Road within the city of Aubrey, Texas. Kate.
So we have a site plan now to review and discuss. The site location is shown in the hatched area and along US 377, west of the high school at the southeast corner of 377 and Pine Ridge Road. So Pine Ridge Road is right there and 377. So this is the zoning map, and you can see that it is zoned commercial. It is currently undeveloped. The proposed use is retail and restaurant. So here is the plat, and this is the site plan. So per the zoning requirement, prior to receipt of a building permit, properties greater than 1 acre or within 200 feet of a single family platted development shall have their site plans reviewed. So this is not only larger than 1 acre, it is also within 200 feet. So it meets both of those requirements. The applicant has worked with us and provided the information needed. So the property was platted in 2015 into a 1.702 acre lot. And this is a proposed 1-story building that will cover 12,780 square feet and a lot coverage of 17.24%. There are 39 parking spaces for retail use and 31 parking spaces for restaurant use, for a total of 70 parking spaces, 4 of which will be ADA compliant according to these plans. So because TxDOT will be expanding 377, the applicant has included the location of a TxDOT right-of-way acquisition over here on the west side. And they have shifted their development further to the east to accommodate the expansion of US 377. The site plan meets the city's requirements for landscaping, parking, and buffering. Much of the required landscaping is over here on the west side, which will be impacted by the expansion of 377. Most of the required trees will be located over a proposed water sewer easement that they have provided. They have shifted, and there is a water sewer easement, a 10-foot easement, and a lot of the trees are going to be located there, but the applicant has tried to put them as close to the edge of that easement as possible. So we have some drainage studies here. I'm trying to get to the landscaping. So we've got the landscaping here. And so you can see where a lot of these trees are along here are closer to the western portion of that 10-foot easement, closer to the street. Zoning on the south side of the property has both commercial and ag zoning. Oops, for whatever reason. Interesting. So this area, this portion is zoned commercial, but then at about this part right here, then the zoning reverts to agricultural. So the buffer changes. The applicant had wanted to put additional a landscape a screening, but they instead are going to insert a masonry fence along this line. So there's a lot of landscaping here, more than they really need. So because they're going to install that fence along that zoning district, the AGR zoning to buffer, some of that landscaping will come out, but it will still meet. It still needs to meet the zoning requirements and the site plan requirements. So you may, on this agenda item, approve the site plan, approve it with conditions, or deny it. And the planner is recommending approval of the site plan.
If I'm thinking right of where this place is there not houses there?
There are not houses there.
They're further back.
The one
They're
that
further back, closer to the school.
Right, yeah,
And
this
the
is,
second question is, you may have answered this, how many commercial or restaurants are they're thinking they might be able to fit in here?
so the site plan allows for it's flex use actually, but the idea is like half of this will be retail and half of it will be a restaurant. And I believe there's a certain number of chairs because the zoning ordinance is based parking on the number of chairs in a restaurant. So that will limit how large the restaurant can be. Until or unless they address the parking. Thank you very much. Yes.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, my name is Srinivas Chalwadi. I am the owner, developer for this property. We are also developing a similar kind of project, a smaller project on the northern side of this lot. I own both the lots, both on the northeastern quadrant as well as the southeastern corner. The northeastern corner of the property is currently under development. The city staff is giving us an excellent cooperation. We hope to complete that project in the next 12 to 14 months. Our goal is to complete if the City Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council approves, and if we get our permits timely, we want to complete this project also in about 14 to 15 months. So that both the projects come into business approximately at the same time. We will avoid the impact on business from US 377 expansion. So we want to make the building ready much before the US 377 expansion work begins, because at the time US 377 work begins, naturally there will be a slowdown in the business activity, and we do not want to start a commercial project, or we do not want to have a grand opening of a commercial building at the time when there is a lot of construction activity on US 377. So we want to have this shopping center established before the construction can begin. So I sincerely request the P&Z Commission to approve the site plan and allow us to begin works ASAP. And I want to put on record an extraordinary cooperation from the city staff, and they've been doing very good. They have been supporting us quite a bit on this project. Thank you all, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
You may like to second that.
Second.
I think Candace beat her out. Sorry, Brittany, you got one more you can do.
One more, I guess.
All in favor? No opposed. Item number 9, consider and make a recommendation to the city council and revision for the Aubrey High School with a variance to mechanical equipment screening requirement in section 23F 6D3 of the zoning ordinance, generally located on the southeast corner of Spring Hill Road and Highway 377. Ms. Stringfellow.
All right, so we finally made it. Last item on your agenda tonight is for a variance to the screening of the rooftop mechanical equipment for the Aubrey High School that is proposing to expand by a substantial amount. I believe it's somewhere around 80,000 square feet. And so let me just get into it. So the areas that you see that are clouded there in red, those are that's the proposed mechanical equipment. See, so that's the rooftop mechanical equipment. So that's one of the buildings. And then this is the other building. So basically what they're showing you is this is the building, and then this is what the rooftop mechanical equipment would look like if you're looking, directly at it. And so what they've also done here is they've provided sight lines to show you generally, and I'm going to show you a map as well, but generally, how that sight line falls off the further away that you get from the site. And the area that's here to your left or to your right, sorry, that's a colored rendering to give you an idea of what those buildings would look like with the rooftop mechanical equipment. Now, there will be some screening, as you can see there, but the reason why they are here is because of the height of the required screening. So they're required to have screening that is at least the same height or 1 foot above the height of the mechanical equipment. And they're proposing, they'll be somewhere like 2 feet around 2 feet less. The masonry wall will be 2 feet less than the mechanical equipment. So basically, mechanical equipment will extend almost 2 feet above the height of the parapet wall that they are proposing. And so the code requires that they screen from the roadway, which in this case, closest roadway here is going to be Spring Hill Road, and then also adjacent property. So I'm gonna, let's see if I can. Oh, wait a minute, never mind, I can do it. So one thing, I'm gonna go back to the aerial map here to give you an idea of everything that's around. So the yellow dot, those are the buildings that we're looking at on the site. And the reason why I colored that in is because one thing that you'll be able to see here is that this site is pretty big. And so everything to the south is still on the school's property. And so everything to the south, you know, you probably won't be able to see that, right, from the south, from the multifamily property, given how big the school's property is at. And so to the east of the property is single family and agricultural zoning. To the west is there is a mixture of uses. Kate just also did the presentation of the proposed retail building. And there is some single family that is closer abutting this site. And then, of course, to the north on the other side of Spring Hill Road is the future High Point Ranch development. And so this map are some sight lines that they've drawn just to give you an idea of where those rooftop equipment will be on the site and where those sight lines generally are at. And so these are the factors for consideration that are listed again in your zoning ordinance for your consideration when considering whether or not you want to grant this variance. And so, of course, unique circumstances exist on the property that make application of the specific items and burdensome. Where you're looking at whether or not the variance will have an adverse impact on current and future development. Is it in keeping in the spirit and intent of the zoning regulations and making sure that there's no adverse impact on public health, safety, and general welfare. So staff has looked at these items and based upon where this mechanical equipment is at on the site, on these buildings, we feel like, of course, it meets all those factors and would recommend approval. And so, of course, we will be giving a recommendation and then it will go to the city council on August.
Would you like to speak?
Our architect's on the Zoom.
Okay.
He can talk.
I figured he might, someone would.
I'll end.
Oh, sounds good. Mr. Powell?
I am Luke Powell with Huckabee Architects. And, you know, to keep within the spirit of what the zoning warrant is, it's to not see the mechanical units. That's why we wanted to show the sightlines from the right of way, showing that with the heights of the parapets that we're providing, we are keeping within the spirit of what the intent is, and we're not seeing the rooftop units up on the building with the 2-story height and how far we are away from the right of way. So we did provide these sections. In order to meet the ordinance, we would have to add another 4 feet in height to this building around the entire 2-story addition of the building. And so the request was to ask for a variance to keep our parapet heights down, still at the height that we are screening mechanical equipment from the right of way. So that was the intent of providing multiple viewpoints from around the entire site, because it does say residential properties as well as the right of way. And then we also wanted to provide one that was still from 377 showing, which is number viewpoint E. So that you cannot see the documents. Of course, we are in view, are being screened. I do think I cannot see what you're looking at, but if you do look at sight line B, which is on sheet AS 0.02, it's the last sheet, the middle rendering. There is a gray portion of the building that does have rooftop sitting on it, and on top of the roof, you can see we are screening the rooftop units as well there. Any questions you have for us?
You lose like half your face is cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line is from the sidelines, they'll be screened, you know, and Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, you're the expert. And we can, you know, amend with the spirit of the.
Could you identify yourself?
I'm sorry, David Bellingham, Superintendent of School.
Okay.
Aubrey High School. So.
I'm sorry, I have 4 children in school.
Yeah. I apologize about that, but anyway, I'll stand up to when I see. But we want to, you know, certainly adhere to the spirit of the ordinance. It's just also $700 if it's already being screened by what's there, it's not going to go up that extra 4 feet. I guess, is that right, Lou? Right. Anyway, appreciate your consideration.
My only question was answered with what was the extenuating
That's
circumstances? I wanted to know exactly, I mean, I know
That's
it's
what I
my
was
tax
wondering.
dollars at work here, but what were the unique circumstances? And I think that they've answered my question on that, so.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, you got your sin, Brittany. All right, all in favor? All right, passes, and we will go ahead and adjourn at 8:04. You. All right, you're gonna have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Sorry for you to see the whole plan.
I thought we.
Yes.
You came in